One of the most misunderstood changes that happens to men after 60 is this. They start disappearing from people's lives. No arguments, no dramatic speeches, no long, drawn-out explanations. One day they're there, the next day they're gone. Friends are shocked, family members are confused. Some call it bitterness, others call it selfishness. But the truth is very, very different. Most older men do not cut people off because they hate them. They do it because age teaches a lesson that took decades to understand. And once that lesson is learned, there is no going back. In the field of developmental psychology, the transition into a man's senior years involves a massive recalibration of emotional energy. What society perceives as isolation is actually a profound biological and psychological mechanism of self-preservation. It is the grand audit of a man's life. Today, we are going to explore the psychology of the silent exit. We will dissect the 7 undeniable reasons why older men cut people off without a single warning, and why this behavior is not a symptom of cruelty, but the ultimate expression of masculine wisdom. Let us uncover the truth. Point number 1. They realize time is running out. When you are 25 years old, the human brain operates under a dangerous illusion. The illusion of infinite time. If a young man wastes a few years on a toxic friend or a dramatic romantic partner, it doesn't seem like a big deal. He believes he has an endless supply of tomorrows to start over. When you are 65, the mathematics of mortality feel entirely different. Older men become painfully aware that time is strictly limited. The Stoic philosophy of memento mori, remember you must die, transitions from a philosophical concept into a lived reality. Every year becomes more valuable, every month matters, every day feels important. Because of this profound temporal awareness, they stop investing their remaining years in people who bring stress, chaos, or constant negativity. They calculate the return on investment for every social interaction. If an interaction drains their limited supply of days without bringing joy or peace, they sever the tie immediately. They do not walk away out of anger. They walk away out of mathematical wisdom. Point number 2. Betrayal hits infinitely harder after 60. A young man can recover from betrayal more easily. He has the emotional plasticity to forgive, forget, and rebuild. He believes there is plenty of time ahead to fix broken bridges. But older men view betrayal through a completely different psychological lens. After years of loyalty, after decades of sacrifice, dishonesty feels much heavier. The older man has already paid his dues to society. When trust is broken later in life, it feels like a profound violation of the unwritten contract of human decency. When a friend lies or a partner betrays him, many older men no longer see a logical reason to offer endless second chances. Rebuilding trust requires a massive amount of psychological labor, emotional vulnerability, and time. And as we have established, time is exactly what the senior man refuses to waste. They quietly walk away. Not because they are cruel, not because they lack empathy, but because they have learned that trust is incredibly difficult to rebuild, and they refuse to spend their final chapters repairing a bridge that the other person chose to burn. Point number 3. This is perhaps the biggest reason of all. They no longer fear being alone. Most people in modern society stay in bad relationships, tolerate toxic family members, and endure exhausting friendships for one primary reason. They are absolutely terrified of loneliness. They view solitude as a punishment. But older men often discover something surprising. When they finally face the silence of an empty house, they realize that being alone is not nearly as frightening as they once believed. We must draw a distinct line between isolation and solitude. Isolation is the pain of feeling disconnected. Solitude is the glorious, deliberate state of being connected to yourself. In fact, many senior men discover a sense of freedom they never expected. Once a man becomes comfortable with solitude, unhealthy relationships instantly lose their power over him. You cannot manipulate a man with the threat of abandonment if he actually enjoys his own company. When a toxic person creates drama, the older man simply compares that drama to the perfect peace of his empty living room. The moment his solitude feels better than your presence, you will be cut off without a moment's hesitation. Point number 4. They get incredibly tired of one-sided relationships. One of the biggest psychological shifts that happens after 60 is that older men start paying fierce attention to balance. The illusion of unconditional friendship fades, replaced by a strict audit of reciprocity. For years, many men ignored these questions. They operated under the martyr complex, believing that being a good man meant giving continuously without expecting anything in return. But eventually they notice a painful, undeniable pattern. Some people only take. They extract time, they extract resources, and they extract emotional support. But they never give. Once an older man sees that pattern clearly, he often walks away without saying a single word. He doesn't call them out. He doesn't demand an apology. He simply removes their access to his life. He finally understands that loyalty and effort should go both ways. If a relationship is a parasitic extraction rather than a symbiotic partnership, the senior man will surgically remove the parasite to protect the host. Point number 5, they completely stop being everyone's problem solver. Many men spend decades rescuing people. It is baked into the traditional masculine identity. We fix problems. We give money to struggling relatives. We offer advice. We make sacrifices to ensure everyone around us is comfortable. At first, playing the hero feels noble. It feeds the ego. But over time, they realize a dark psychological truth. The more they solve other people's problems, the more people expect them to continue. The gratitude fades, and it is replaced by entitlement. Eventually, the older man becomes exhausted. He realizes he has cultivated a circle of dependence, not a circle of equals. Older men often cut people off when they realize they are being valued only for what they provide, and not for who they are. When the ATM closes, when the free therapy stops, and when the rescue missions end, they watch how quickly people disappear. By stepping down from the role of the perpetual savior, the older man forces people to take accountability for their own lives. He stops playing God, and in doing so, he reclaims his own humanity. Point number 6, they have seen the same movie entirely too many times. Age brings a powerful, almost supernatural psychological gift: advanced pattern recognition. Older men have seen the lies. They have heard the excuses. They have witnessed the subtle manipulation tactics. They have received the fake apologies and the empty promises, again and again and again. When a young man encounters a manipulator, he is often confused. He gives them the benefit of the doubt. He waits to see if they will change. But when the older man encounters the exact same behavior later in life, he doesn't wait around to see how the story ends. He already knows the ending. He knows that toxic people rarely change. They only change their tactics. When he spots the first red flag, he executes an immediate, unapologetic exit strategy. He leaves much faster than he did when he was younger, because his tolerance for predictable disappointment is exactly 0. Point number 7, perhaps this is the deepest, most profound lesson of all. They realize that peace is worth infinitely more than company. Society brainwashes us into believing that being surrounded by others automatically equates to happiness. We are told that a large social circle is the ultimate indicator of a successful life. Older men know better. They have learned through decades of trial and error that company without respect is exhausting. Friendship without loyalty is entirely meaningless. And relationships without peace eventually become unbearable burdens. The human nervous system is not designed to endure perpetual conflict. The older man's brain, having survived a lifetime of stress, demands equilibrium. And that is why many older men would rather sit alone in a quiet room, reading a book or listening to the rain, than spend another single day surrounded by people who disturb their peace. They cut people off because they realize that protecting their mental health is their highest duty. Because after 60, peace is no longer a luxury to be desired. It becomes a strict biological and psychological necessity. To the younger men watching, let the wisdom of the older generation save you decades of wasted energy. You do not have to wait until you are 60 to cut the cords of toxic relationships. You can claim this sovereignty today. And to the older men watching, you have finally learned the ultimate lesson. Never apologize for protecting the sanctuary you spent a lifetime bleeding to build. The silent exit is not an act of cruelty, it is the ultimate act of self-respect. If this video resonated with your soul, I want to hear your truth. Head down to the comments and tell me, what was the breaking point that finally made you comfortable with cutting toxic people out of your life? Your scars and your wisdom will help guide the men who are still fighting blindly through the storm. If you found value in this deep dive into male psychology, please hit the like button, subscribe to the Sage Academy channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a lesson. Thank you for watching. Until next time, guard your peace and live on your own terms.